Alaskans, wherever you are, welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Welcome, everybody, to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick, coming to you live from somewhere in Alaska. I hope everybody's having a phenomenal day today. The sun is out, and I hope everybody has got amazing 4th of July plans. I hope it's sunny for 4th of July. I know my family and I are going to go RVing with some other folks. It's our 3rd or 4th trip. We got maybe 2 or 3 more planned for the summer. Crossing my fingers for great weather the rest of the summer. If you watch, listen, or read Must Read Alaska and you want to help keep the lights on, just go to mustreadalaska.com. On the right-hand side, there's a little donate button. Every $5, $10, $100 helps keep the lights on here at Must Read Alaska. This summer, we're doing something very special called the Candidate Forum Spotlight. If you go to the Must Read Alaska Facebook page, on the top of the page, pinned to the very top, there's a post where it shows that if you're running for office, you have friends running for office, and they want to highlight why they're running for office, there's a kind of a 1, 2, 3 to do on that post. And you can sign up, or you can have your friends sign up, and they'll get 10, 15 minutes here on the Must Read Alaska Show. Our guest today is running for office. Brandy, welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Brandy, and as you know, I'm running for State House District 9, which represents the area. It's kind of a really unique district. It's very socioeconomically and politically diverse. It's Stuckagen Heights, Huffman Road to Brayton Drive, which is the old Seward Highway, and south to Whittier. So it encompasses several communities that we don't typically think about. Mainstream population and the Anchorage will think about Bird Creek, Rainbow, Indian, Girdwood, and the forgotten sleeping giant Whittier.
Nice. So you threw your name in the hat. Why did you throw your name in the hat? You look like you are pretty successful on your own. And so, man, some people, they see an opportunity. Some people, they see people not doing a good job and they want to correct it. Why did you throw your name in the hat?
Well, thank you for the professional acknowledgement. I am very successful in my career as a real estate broker and in land development. I have all of my needs that are met, and with the exception of what I'm observing from the perspective of being, a homeowner, a mother, a real estate broker, a person in our community, I see that there are a lot of laws and intricacies within our state that aren't serving the general population very well or at all. And whether they were contrived out of predatory practice or some ill intent, or maybe just not at all well thought out, I don't know. But I always like to look at things from a positive aspect. And so ultimately, I'm running for office because I'm committed to bringing positive change and growth to our community. Specifically District 9. I want to use my professional expertise to address pressing issues that the people in my community face. District 9 is the most, I think of it as the economic engine for the state of Alaska. It's socially diverse, politically diverse, with so many different value systems, but ultimately, the people that live in my district are high producing individuals with a lot of talent, and I don't think that their talent has been fully appreciated, and I want to bring that to the forefront of their representation. In general, I see that there are some other candidates that have run, but I can tell you this, I will not be outworked, and my dedication to my district and my community, having grown up, born and raised in Anchorage and lived in District 9-ish or the hillside for 34 years, you won't find anyone else who will outwork me.
That's awesome. So let's say it's day 1 in office. You won. What are some of your top priorities that you're going to focus on if you win?
So what I found is that a lot of politicians kind of come in and get the lay of the land, and they spend, especially House Representative, they spend about a year making friendships and establishing relationships. Day 1 is when the election result comes. Actually, day 1 for me started back in January when I met with Laddie Shaw and a few other people in Juneau and started to put together what a succession plan would look like. And in the end, what I realized, and I think I've known for a long time, is that a lot of elected officials get there with great intentions, but they sort of are clouded. I don't know what happens. It's like this spirit of complacency is put over them, and they've sort of just accepted that I'm not going to make big change in Juneau, and that's not my personality. I don't think that that's going to be a part of my, I'm not impervious to mistakes, but by no means is that going to be one of them. So I really want to focus on immediate bang for the buck, and that's economic growth through tourism and recreation. As you probably know, tourism has surpassed all other sectors, I think, in the GDP, and we need to invest in activities that attract tourism and retain residents. If you're not having fun in Alaska, you don't stay, especially the people in my district who can afford to move elsewhere. And that's probably one of the saddest things for me as a real estate broker is knowing all of these people, having grown up with many of them or lived my life with them for an extended period of time, and they leave because they can get a better home, have a better lifestyle with more things to do at half the price and still retain their jobs in Alaska. So to me, that says we need to, as a state and a community, offer value add to where people choose to live. They've got choice. We need to show them that we are their only choice. And the way we're going to do that is by focusing on outdoor recreational activities and other cool things to do. Those come at a very low cost. The Department of Natural Resources has sort of been at the very end of the state budget, and it's really not a big talking point, but it's a big talking point for my community because District 9 is completely surrounded by state park and state-owned land. A lot of people don't know this, but the state of Alaska, I think, is the second largest landholder, and that includes the Alaska Railroad. Well, the Alaska Railroad has a ton of real estate in our district, and we need to figure out a way to, well, actually, we don't have to. They're beginning the conversation about how do we make these communities whole for what has happened to them through railroad situations in the past, and I want to be at the table for that conversation. So it's not just about who you know, it's about being there to represent the people in District 9 and give them a voice. So moving into economic growth and development, a part of that has to do with business development. And as I've said before, my district, the people in my district are some of the most talented and not just educated, but they possess a ton of potential. And I think that their skill set and their businesses are really underutilized. And you know, oftentimes you'll hear politicians, they'll say like, oh, we're open for business, but you talk to them individually and they'll tell you we're not open for business. Like Alaska is a really difficult place to work in or open your business in. So I want to make funding more accessible to business professionals and entrepreneurs who have a record of being successful in the past through state grant funding or low interest loans. Those are really important. I know that the state offers a lot of commercial backing on loans, but they're nearly impossible to get. And when you go through, I kind of call them I think it's the AIDA, the gatekeeper of a lot of the funds. It's really difficult. You can't meet with them in person. You have to send them emails. You hope that they'll call you back. And ultimately, unless you're one of the larger corporations functioning in our community, they don't really want to talk to you. And I think that's really an unfortunate place to be, because the reality is that individual people in District 9 can probably produce a lot more for everyone. And so, you know, part of that, I'm sure people are like, oh, she wants to spend money. No, I am exceptionally fiscally responsible. I have an 830 credit score. I own a decent, I have made my life about fiscal responsibility. And I see that there are a lot of people who get elected because they have a platform or an idea. And in some cases, there are a lot of people who get elected because they're not running against anyone. I am committed to bringing back a balanced budget. I oppose all new all taxes. I oppose new taxes, and I believe that limited government and preventing government overreach is probably one of the best things that I can help with my associate or with my district, particularly as it pertains to healthcare and education. Those are two areas where we spend a lot of money and people aren't getting a lot of value return. So, you know, I looked at the state budget, and I don't know if you want to talk about that later on, but I'm kind of geeked. I'm a policy person, so I really geeked out over that. And there's just no way to cut our way to solvency at all. So ultimately what we're looking at is reducing the PFD, which by the way, they have been doing for quite some time. Like people are getting they're basically getting 25% of what's statutorily owed. Like, what's the point of having a constitution if we're not going to follow it? I don't know. a lot of people don't even know we have a constitution or the fact that it's been amended 13 times. So I think providing information, I'm committed definitely to transparency in that aspect, that it's hard to talk about money issues. I mean, let's look at why most people get divorced, money issues, right? It's hard to say, hey, we don't have it because someone else is going to sacrifice not being able to get what they think they need or deserve. So having that conversation and being really transparent about it is very important. A lot of politicians don't like to talk about it because they want to get reelected. I'm not worried about getting reelected. What's important to me is being honest and ethical and fair to everyone. And moreover, being able to face you at the grocery store, you knowing that I'm doing the best possible job for you. And there are going to be people who won't be happy in the end and people who will be thrilled. But the bottom line is I'm going to do all that I can. And we can talk about, I don't know if you have a few minutes you want to talk about later on, the budget deficit and so forth and where we're at. But ultimately, there are politicians right now that are posturing for an income tax. Well, I can tell you what, income tax is not going to do well in my district because these are already respectably earning people who are paying more than their fair share, if you will, in life. And they're not all making money and things aren't all great for everyone. I mean, I think across the board, everyone in the country is sort of feeling the pinch. So fiscal responsibility is important to me. I could probably talk to you about our budget and the things that are, I must say waste, but the bottom line is, I think that we should be funding what's constitutionally mandated and put the rest out to the vote of the people. This is what the Constitution, hang tight real quick. This is what our Constitution says we need to pay for. And this is everything else. What do you want to do? You know, kind of like pick, click, give. Maybe we look at something like that, because at this point, I don't think anyone has a bad response or answer. I think everything needs to be put on the table and we can sort it out from there. So, you know, a lot of people, education's a big thing in my district. I was a party to the lawsuit about about homeschooling. And bottom line, I have a degree in occupational education. I understand that one size fits all doesn't work for everyone. I also understand that we need to adequately fund our classrooms and that, quite frankly, societal values have changed. And I don't think that a lot of people have caught on to that. You're not getting the volunteers that used to come into the classroom. The room moms aren't showing up. And the ones that are like, oh, I don't want my kids to be here. I'm going to homeschool them because there's a lot of distractions in the classroom. So the conversation really needs to be had about, hey, we're teachers, we're administration, you're parents, here are the students. We need to talk about responsibility for all the parties, and we need to find better ways to support. I'm really passionate about volunteering my time and doing things for our community. And I think that a lot of people also are into that too. They just don't know how. So we need to open effectively marketing campaigns, asking for volunteers to come back in the classroom. We need to show teachers and students that they're loved and appreciated and that their performance really matters. I authored just recently, I went to Juneau and I met with the governor and a couple other people about the educational landscape. And it occurred to me that they've got a lot going on, but not all the pieces are coming together for the general public. I see that they're working on different things that will be beneficial for all Alaskans that are involved with youth education in some way or another, but that message isn't coming together. So on my own accord, I wrote a Truth and Transparency of Alaska's Educational Landscape marketing plan for the governor's office, but it hasn't been acknowledged by their office yet. I think it's a really great way to communicate to the people who are consumers of education. And frankly, even in Anchorage, a lot of people don't realize this, but 49% of your tax base, property tax for 9 communities, which encompasses the Anchorage Bowl, go into the school district. And so they really need to understand how that money is being spent, where's it going, what do we need to do to improve? Well, we can talk about the test scores later. That's a whole other ball of wax. What do we need to do to improve performance? For some schools, improving performance will be the kids are showing up. For other schools, it'll be like improved performance, they're testing better. And some of these tests, I don't know if you've researched or looked into a lot of these tests. First of all, they're not mandated by the state. So you can opt out, your child does not have to be tested. The tests are not, the placement tests or adequacy tests, they're not supposed to be timed, but if you've ever sat in a classroom where everyone's testing, you're kind of got this like self-timing going, right? You're watching other kids get up and they're finished and you're just trying to get through yours. But moreover, a lot of those tests really just aren't fair. A lot of the math has moved into reading problems, right? So it's a reading problem and the math is within that reading problem. There are children who are slow readers, or we have actually, let's just be real, we have some of the lowest reading scores in the nation. I would probably even go as far as to say the world for civilized countries and organizations, if that makes sense. So education is really important to me, and I think that there are ways that we can resolve it, but it starts with a truth and transparency about what the actual landscape looks like. And then education is not a primary platform for me. There are a lot of people who are really passionate about it. I will let them do their thing. I would like to just hear and have the opportunity to amend or modify what they propose. Although my degree in occupational education says that I probably have a pretty solid voice in the matter. Public safety is really important, and public safety in my community isn't necessarily about crimes, so to speak, as you think of like being burglarized or victimized or some sort of, the stuff that my office is in Spenard, the stuff that I see here every day in Spenard. But public safety also includes ensuring that our first responders, that would be like not just firemen, police officers, state troopers, people who deal with crisis intervention are adequately supported. And when people think about that, they think, oh, we just need to pay them more. No. We need to find ways, because given Alaska's situation with our high domestic violence and serious crime rating, I would be remiss not to say that this hasn't always been a problem in Alaska since I can remember. It's been a problem. I remember growing up in Anchorage and my parents were like, don't go on the trails, it's dangerous. I remember violence being a big part of why they changed the physical neighborhood landscape of Fairview and other communities, because they needed to try and reduce the criminal traffic. So it's been around for a long time, and we need to find better ways to deal with it. And I have a plan for that, but I'm not going to tell you in this interview because I don't want anyone to steal my information. So ultimately, back to that public safety thing, it's about being able to provide them with the social services they need. And I'm sure some Republicans are cringing, but let's be real. It's a lot. They have some of the highest suicide rates out of all professions. We need to make sure that their mental health and their physical well-being is on point, so that when they meet that stressful event, they can step back, go through their process, utilize the tools that they've been given, and make sure that they're handling it appropriately. That's really important. And it's really hard when you work in crisis intervention, unless you've been there in that moment. None of us have any room to talk, but what we can do is offer better tools, skill set, and support so that when their first responders encounter it, they're prepared. But, I'm going to tell you this. Public safety to me in my district is also includes transportation. We have the Seward Highway, which is the most deadliest highway in the country, and it's the best condition. It's in the best condition it's ever been in. Yet almost weekly, people are dying, losing their lives, or being hurt on this highway. And with the advent of Holton Hills, that's a neighborhood that will be going in Girdwood through a private-public partnership. They're looking at bringing in up to 750 new homes, and that's 750 people potentially on that road, which is already arguably able to support what comes through year-round anyway. So I want to look at new private-public partnerships for commuter rails from Anchorage, whether it be downtown or South Anchorage, to Girdwood, once that is really taken off, because I firmly believe if you build it, they will come. And once that's taken off, I think we need to look at extending it to Whittier and south through the peninsula. I mean, public safety, transportation is a public safety issue, 100%. And, just a little bit closer to home, I live on Rabbit Creek, and there are no sidewalks at all. I don't think there's any street lighting either. There might be a couple. Most of my district is serviced by the road maintenance is serviced by the state, but we're not even given the courtesy of an emergency shoulder lane. So my promise to my district is I will do everything I can to bring back safer transportation options. There are so many children up there, and frankly, seniors and adults who don't drive that need to be able to walk, and they can't do those in a safe manner, especially in the winter time when the shoulders are full of what little limited shoulders we have are full of snow. So anyway, the other hot topic in my community is energy independence, and I'm sure I'm burning my 15 minutes here with you, so we can move on to another as I'm door knocking and meeting these people, I'm asking them what's important to them. And I'm not giving any I'm not setting up the stage for what of these topics are you interested in. I'm just talking to them and finding out what's important to them. And it's not fitting the narrative of what everyone says, oh, these are important topics. Actually, I don't know what survey you put out or where you got this information, but that's not what I'm hearing from people when I'm at their door. So anyway, we can move on to the next question.
So do you have an opponent? If so, what separates you from your opponent?
I do. I have 3. And so, I think, I know that I am far more qualified than any other opponent. I also have a sterling reputation and a sincere commitment to my community. Anytime you hear a politician talk about their platform being the 3 E's, education, economics, environment, you know that person lacks depth and that they're basically giving you the sounding board for what they think people want to hear. I might sound a little bit more libertarian than what a lot of people like in a Republican, but the bottom line is we could be doing so much more for our communities by reducing a lot of overlays that impede our progression as people in the community, and particularly my district where a lot of people are business owners. For example, the debacle we call the Alaska court system. There are so many changes. We need a full overhaul on how they do business. I own a decent amount of real estate and I have had to process evictions, and I will tell you with a clean conscience that we work with that person as far as we can work with them until it's just willful that they're not going to pay. Like, I will set them up with payment plans. I will find a way to take a credit card processing. And if they get far enough behind, I'll just tell them, hey, I'm going to reduce this rent by 20% if you can pay me in these 4 increments. And most of the time they're just choosing not to, and that's fine. So we go through the small claims process, and then I go back and I know to check my documents. And so many times I've gone back, opened my court case, and there's been someone else's evidence in my file. And that's because of their process. There's all paper process. Attorneys are able to file online. Everyday people like you and I can't do that. And the end result is that it takes longer to get your court dates. You potentially are facing the loss of evidence or inclusion of evidence that was not a party. So I think that there's a lot of stuff that we can do. My interest in running for office isn't self-serving. It's about improving the quality of life for people across the board in Alaska, to include stuff like predatory insurance companies. Many Alaskans are paying, probably at least once or twice a week, I'll get calls from people who say, hey, I heard from someone that you do insurance. I'm like, I know, I'm a real estate broker, but how can I help you? And I'll learn that they faithfully paid their insurance premiums for a long time, and they're facing their first claim, and they're being turned down for stuff that they should be entitled to based on what their policy covers. But a lot of these insurance companies, they're a very regulated industry, and they've learned how to manipulate that regulation, and effectively people are suffering from predatory practices. So that's a problem. I think another thing that separates me from the rest of them is that I have a pretty robust family and I worked in education. So I understand the difference between charter schools, which, by the way, most people don't know are public, private school, and then homeschooling. I have children doing all of them. I'm on the Alaska Native charter, ANCCS, Alaska Native Tribal, Alaska Native, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Cultural Charter School. Thank you. Forgive me, it's been a long day.
You got it.
And I see firsthand what improvements can be made when people feel like their culture and their learning style is embraced. So I can have a seat at the table when we talk about education and not come from a polarized position of what I've heard. I get that life isn't black and white. I, in my own life, have lived hand to mouth before. I had 2 parents that were basically children raising 4 kids. And at the age of 17, my dad was like, you graduated, see you later. And, for a period of time, I slept in my car because I couldn't afford an apartment and I was too young to sign for one. Now in my 40s, I've earned everything by the sweat of my brow that I own. And God has blessed me so well. And I've been very successful. And there's nothing that I can't achieve or do for my community if that's hi, cutie. if, meaning his cat, for those of you listening, he just brought in his little furry baby. Anyway, that I can't achieve for my district. I mean, I've been in here on the hillside for 34 years. I understand what the issues are. I think there's this misconception that everyone on the hillside has money. I know that's not true. I see where the state has failed us, and it's been said at one point that politicians have done a really great job of managing decline, and I 100% agree with that. If you are just coming into Alaska, you think this is pretty good, but if you've been here for an extended period of time, you realize it's not. As a part of my commitment and the things that separate me from the other candidates, I'm committed to transparency in my communication. I realize that not everyone is following gavel to gavel or reading Must Read Alaska or whatever it is other people get their information from, and you're also relying on someone else's opinion to summarize. I'm going to provide regular updates via social media live if people want to participate that way. So it shows, so they understand my dedication to transparency and accountability. And that's something that is a big problem in Juneau that I want to work on, that when people get there, they're untouchable. And you and I have to spend like $3 grand to go down there for a weekend and hope we get our 5 minutes. And so many times I've been down there and I haven't gotten my 5 minutes. You know, they have some staffers at the front desk that are like, just give me your information and I'll try to get it to them. But it's either going in the round file, which is the trash can, or it's going into a desk drawer, which they'll hopefully give to your representative. I want to make sure that I'm accessible to my people by being available to them, not just in the 90-day session that we have. And then the other thing too, I don't know that any other candidate has a plan to address Alaska's fiscal deficit. You want to know more? I could probably talk ad nauseum about it. Email me, text me, call me, probably just go to my social media page and let's have a conversation. And that's part of what I'm setting up here for the remaining portion of my campaign. This is really important, I have to tell you. I'm running 2 races. I'm running to the primary and I have to have votes. I need people to show up to vote for me at the primary so that I can proceed, because I want to do what's right for the party. And if I'm not the choice, then I want to get out of the way, because ranked choice voting doesn't work for my district. It doesn't work, period. Anyway, we can talk about that later. I need people to show up to vote. And so in order to do that, I want to build a relationship of accountability and transparency with them by hosting effectively town halls or open houses, getting to know them and what their needs are. And then, you know, my expertise in housing and development. Housing crisis isn't just an Anchorage problem, it is a statewide problem. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, there's always been a housing crisis, who cares? Well, I care now, and we should all care, because our community has roughly 35,000 children under the age of 19 who are going to need somewhere to live. And the conversation and solutions have to be implemented now so that in 5 or 10 or 15 years, we have it. Because you know how government takes forever to spin through that cycle. Developing public policy is a process. And if we need to be ahead of solving problems rather than reactive to the problems as they're occurring. So, I mean, in closing, I guess, you know, because I'm seeing on my little timer that I'm running out of time, sorry. I really want to highlight the problems that have been created by representation in the past, and that they've done a really great job of managing decline. And there's a lot of people who will be your BFF and show up to your barbecue. And I think that's fine. I'm committed to working. I'm a business professional who's stepping out of my career, taking a large sacrifice for my family and my finances to make it possible for your family and your finances to be successful and thrive in Alaska. I will make a difference, and I know there's a good chance that some people may not necessarily see it, but I can tell you it starts small and it builds up. And then one of my favorite quotes is, a rising tide lifts all boats or lifts all ships. And I firmly believe that. So my parents, you know, I guess the older, because today's my birthday, and you know, it's always reflective. When you hit middle age, you're like reflective about everything. The older I get, the more grateful I am for the way I was raised. My parents taught me, when you know better, you do better, which is why I'm running. I am so grateful that I know better and I want to do better. So your vote for me, District 9's vote for me, is a vote for change. And together I really mean this, and it's your voice, our future. right? You need a voice at the table. Your voice has not been heard previously. You might have shaken a hand and had your baby kissed, but the bottom line is your needs, wants, and community desires have not been heard, but I will make sure that they're heard in Juneau. That's it.
Awesome. So last question to you, this, Brandy. How can somebody get a hold of you? Give us the details on your website, where to find you on social media, maybe an email you got floating out there. Easiest way for folks to get in touch with you.
Thank you. It just, my website is Brandy for Alaska, Insta handle, Facebook. You can just Google me. I have incredible ratings. Just Google me, or you can get me at info@brandyforalaska.com, or brandy@alaska.com.
Nice. Well, we'll put those links in the podcast description. Any last minute thoughts here for a couple minutes? The floor is yours, Brandy, before we take off.
I don't think so. I think I crammed a lot of information. I'm sort of a sponge for information, and I thank you for the opportunity. I hope that wasn't overwhelming. I mean, maybe, are there any questions for me? Like, let's talk about you and what your concerns are as a resident in Alaska.
That is a great question. I think that if we want to go over that, we probably have to book another time because I got to be somewhere 3 minutes ago. But I do appreciate your time, Brandy. And I want to thank you for coming on the Must Read Alaska show. For folks interested in hearing about Brandy or hearing more information, I'm going to put all of her links in the podcast description for you to go check out her social media and her website and all that kind of stuff. I wish you nothing but success, Brandy. For folks that listen, watch, and read Must Read Alaska, you want to help keep the lights on, just go to mustreadalaska.com. On the right-hand side, there's a little donate button. Every $5, $10, $100 helps keep the lights on here at Must Read Alaska. If you want to sponsor the Must Read Alaska show, the #1 podcast in Alaska, just email me, John, JOHN, at mustreadalaska.com. And again, if you're running for office in Alaska, or if you have friends running for office in Alaska, go to the Must Read Alaska Facebook page. Pinned to the very top is a post that'll show you how to get on a candidate forum highlight just like this. We ask kind of the same questions to everybody, so there's no curveballs. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, a Libertarian, a nonpartisan, or everything in between, you're welcome to sign up for the Candidate Forum Spotlight. And we hope everybody has a great 4th of July. Until next time, I'm John Quick from somewhere in Alaska. Thanks so much, Brandy, for joining us.
Thanks, John. Take care.